Zdravo svima, dobrodošli u još jednu epizodu Agelast specijala u saradnji sa Sarajevo Film Festivalom koje podržava Plazma kao ne samo kao sponsor ovog specijala, već i kao zlatni sponsor celokupnog Sarajevo Film Festivala ove godine. A u današnjoj epizodi imat ćete prilike da čujete jedan vrlo zanimljiv razgovor sa dvojicom vrlo ekskluzivnih gostiju. Glavni gost u ovom konkretnom razgovoru je Morten Traavik, u pitanju je reditelj koji je došao ovde sa filmom koji nosi naziv North South Man Woman. U pitanju je jedna vrlo zanimljiva priča koja se dešava u specijalnoj demilitarizovanoj zoni na granici između Severne Koreje i Južne Koreje, gde naša protagonistkinja u ovom dokumentarnom filmu zapravo radi matchmaking, provodadžisanje, kako se to inače kaže, dakle spaja ljubavne parove i to isključivo žene koje su pobegli iz Severne Koreje sa muškarcima iz Južne Koreje. Više o ovom projektu čućete od njega, ali ono po čemu je on takođe vrlo zanimljiv i vrlo poznat jeste po svom prethodnom dokumentarnom filmu koji nosi naziv The Liberation Day, koji je odjeknuo svuda u svetu, a u pitanju je bilo pre tačno 10 godina, ukoliko sećate, kada je najavljen koncert Laibacha u Pjongjangu, glavnom gradu Severne Koreje. Dokumentarni film upravo o tom koncertu Laibacha je napravio naš sledeći gost, koji ćemo govoriti i o dokumentarnom filmu The Liberation Day, a sa njime, kao ekskluzivni gost, bit će Jani Novak, čovek koji stoji iza celokupnog projekta Laibach, između konceptualnog umetnosti Laibach, između muzike Laibacha i čovek koji se 40 godina svakako bavi Laibachom i svime onime što je mitologija, ikonografija, ideologija Laibacha još od njihovog starog manifesta predstavlja. Tako da Jani Novak i Morten Traavik su naši gosti u ovoj epizodi na specijalu sa Sarajevo Film Festivala. So, welcome. I'm very glad that you're here, both of you, actually, because I think that mutual cooperation that you have is very fruitful and amazing. Everything that you've done past, I don't know, 10 years or so, maybe even a little bit more, 13 years, something like that. And you have come here to promote your latest film. You have something to do with the soundtrack for this film, right?
Oh,
no.
Not really. Not really. No, I came to give some moral support to...
moral support. Okay. But you haven't done anything for the soundtrack for the film, From North Korea with Love?
We use actually, we use part of Laibach's cover of Arirang, the like unofficial inter-Korean national anthem, in the film. So in that sense, you could say that you do actually have you have some toes inside the film,
but
or fingers, or
I came as inspection, really.
My commissar.
Okay, so let's go through a little bit at the beginning first through your latest film, North South Men Women, which is a rather interesting story with the main character. I forgot her name. Youjin. Youjin, yeah. Youjin, in the center of the story, she was a defector, right, from North Korea, and then she started doing matchmaking North Korean women with South Korean men, and you made a documentary about it. So how all this thing came to be?
I'll try to make it short and sweet.
And we'll unpack it later during the conversation.
Okay. Well, I came across an article in The Guardian, I think in 2018, that described this phenomenon that actually is an own sub-genre of the matchmaking, like marriage agency business in South Korea, which is targeting specifically North Korean women who have arrived in South Korea and South Korean men. And this article also interviewed a woman who was in charge of such an agency, who was Youjin. So I went to Korea and I managed to meet her.
South Korea.
This time the South Korea, yes. So, and before that, I have been quite a lot of times to the north, to North Korea and conducted a series of cultural collaborations. The most famous one of which Youjin and Laibach is a very important part, I would say.
Yes.
So I already had a backstory with North Korea, and I think that also helped in establishing trust with Youjin and her other North Korean friends, and you know, the North Korean community in South Korea, because I had references. They knew that I knew where they were coming from, and also that I had a kind of an open attitude to their attachment to their homeland. Because even though, you know, it's a reason why they escape from North Korea, but also there is the longing and the, you know, the nostalgia for the place where you were born and grew up.
Yeah, and your family members and
Exactly.
all of those invisible ties that connect you to a certain place and identity, right? Yeah. So let's go a little bit further back in order for us to understand this very complicated story and to understand how you two met in the first place. So I'm guessing that Laibach connection is older than North Korean one when it comes to your in your personal life. So how this collaboration between you and Laibach came to be, even though you are touching on it briefly at the beginning of Liberation Day documentary?
Well, I have to say that I'm in a huge artistic debt to Laibach. They were one of my very main inspirations for my whole way of looking at art and a way of applying art to society.
Yeah, but when was the first time you actually heard of Laibach? Do you even remember?
I remember that very well. That was in 1987 in my hometown of Bergen. And
How old were you?
In 1987, I was 16.
16 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we went into a bar that had installed, that was what at the time a very high-tech new device, which was a video jukebox.
Okay.
And among the choices and the options on the menu was Sympathy for the Devil by Laibach. and we hadn't heard of any of those, but we said, hey, Sympathy for the Devil, Laibach, that sounds kind of, you know, cool. So we just chose that one, and it was like this quite small bar in with ordinary people drinking their beers.
Ordinary
and then
people
suddenly
with
you
Laibach.
have, yeah, and then you have this video of Laibach in this dark cave with this Dracula-looking guy in this hood saying "Pleased to meet you," and with Alsatian dogs and people in uniforms and so on. So people were really like stopping mid-beer and looking at the screen, and it blew us away, of course. So that was like the first encounter, and little did I know that 30 years after, I would be in North Korea with that same guy in the cave.
Where was Jean Valnoir? He was involved somehow, wasn't he?
Valnoir, who is the graphic designer and artist who kind of was who established contact between us.
Yeah.
But this was at a much later point. We again, it's like working with somebody who has worked with somebody, and you know, it's one thing leads to the other.
Because he's now declaring that it was his idea.
Yeah, you know, we have to give him that. He's worked for free for us for a long time.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So basically, at that point, Laibach created this huge impact in your artistic expression, aesthetically, I'm guessing. But how did you comprehend their very complex at the time ideology and, you know, iconography behind it? So because, you know, there was many controversies always following Laibach, especially at the time, especially the late 80s and the early 90s, during the falling apart of Yugoslavia and everything that came after that. For you, being so far away from completely different, you know, social background, identity background, cultural background, receiving that kind of a message, what was that like?
Well, you know, I don't remember how reflected I was at the time, but what actually did attract me and inspire me a lot was that so-called counterculture has often an understanding of itself as like, you know, fighting the power, being the alternative, being edgy, provocative, and so on. And at this time, you know, you had U2 singing Sunday Bloody Sunday, or you had like the embalmed remainings of the punk culture. You didn't really have like the so-called counterculture that was very much on a kind of squat, looking scruffy, you know, hippie, like this more like traditional counterculture, which was really not that countercultural, because those values were more or less shared by most people in society. So then suddenly to come along and call yourself Laibach, which is like the German and Nazi associated name for Ljubljana, I found out later, and also Habsburgian, and also, but you know, they knew what they were doing. And they had chosen to be countercultural in a way that really hurt, in a way, that really sounded and felt kind of dangerous for real. This was for me a real counterculture. So maybe, you know, I'm happy that at the very early stage I kind of understood the difference between fake controversy, which I think we have a lot of in today's society as well, and real controversy. And, you know, you have to give it to them.
Yes, so they did. This is why this is a nice segue for a question to Jani, because especially because I would like to touch on the modern times more on later, but to juxtapose modern times, I have to ask about this early beginning, especially because the Liberation Day starts with a Laibach quote that I really like. But I would like you to, you know, explain a little bit to explain a little bit more the quotes. I'm gonna just read it instead of paraphrasing it. The art is subject to all all art is subject to manipulation, except that which seeks the language of the same manipulation. How would you explain that?
This is what later on, again, you know, as a proper countercultural figure, I shouldn't sound too intellectual, but since, you know, we are on scene for already 40 years, we've learned some phrases and etc., etc. And this is what later Žižek actually called over-identification. Yes, that in a way that you know, it's basically nowadays practically every artistic expression was somehow monetized, including Laibach, I have to say, with many difficulties. But, you know, we are forcing ourselves, we're trying to monetize ourselves, but still stay, as Morten is saying, and this is our big wish, that we are still, you know, in a way countercultural or problematic or subversive to a certain extent. And at that time, when this was written, and this was written basically in 1982 as a part of Laibachian manifest, when we were trying to define, you know, what are we going to do? How are we going to act? You know, what's our position towards? And we basically lay it down very clearly on a paper. And this is maybe the most important statement within the manifest, yes? Mm-hmm. As Žižek later on translated it, it was called over-identification, which means that you do not, that the best way to deal with actually the best way to position yourself within the cultural system is not to stand against, but to
possess it from inside.
Yeah, to kind of to be more, to ask for more. How did you say? Alienation. We want, you know, it's not Laibach going against alienation, but Laibach wanted more alienation, so to say. It's similar thing. It's the best, maybe the easiest to describe through some moments in a film, with the film industry, with some films. Yeah. For instance, a classical case of over-identification, as described in the film, is basically a film Zelig. Zelig by Woody Allen, if you know that film, about this man chameleon who actually came somewhere in some social, and in some political context, social context, whatever, and he started to act basically the same as the everybody else did.
He even transformed physically.
He transformed
into
physically,
social chameleon.
So he was he over-identified himself with certain position. This is the kind of. If you translate this into artistic part, well, there's another film which is also a really good case, which is The Great Dictator by Charlie Chaplin. When the barber is somehow acting as Adolf Hitler, but then at some point he seriously starts to act as Adolf Hitler, but as a good one.
Yeah.
When he has this final speech about freedom and etc., when he basically over-identify with his role. And this is the position that we actually somehow were using at the very beginning. That's why people were afraid, wow, what about if they are really, what they present that they are, and so on. And maybe we really were, or maybe we still are. I don't know, but we are just pretending that we are not.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Not
even us.
So, but by stating that in modern times, what would be the language of art of today in this, I would say, extreme individualization that we're living in, with everything that's going on, including the social media and now AI, including the AI. So what would be the art language,
It's really extreme individualization that is happening, it's true. Yeah. But at the same time, it's just a fake, it's a illusion of individualization. Because in reality, everybody is doing the same, It's kind of collective idea of me, myself, and I, so to say. But it's a trick of the market, a trick of the higher ideology. You have this illusion that you are something special and so on, but basically, you're exactly the same as, everybody else who is using, I don't know, social services, communication, Facebook, I don't know, Instagram, etc., etc. We are all caught in this individualization, so to say. As you are saying, it's really the right thing, but at the same time, we're also caught into the this collective cloud within the techno-feudalism, as Varoufakis is explaining, and so on. Anyway, I don't, as a Laibach, I have to say that we think that art basically is pretty much helpless nowadays. Nothing against art. Art is a great thing, great idea. But as art, as such, it has become pretty much obsolete. And I have to say that I have the feeling that we are now in a kind of moment where everything that we knew before as important expression of individualism or whatever, including books and films and so on, and music, everything is becoming in a way obsolete. And we really basically have to look for something new. It's hard to say what. And again, I'm not into new. We are not that much into new, but we have to find a way how to correspond to the existing reality.
Yeah, so what would be countercultural today, and what would be, provocative in today's world?
Yeah. Especially
if you have this. And
but it's not, again, sorry to interrupt you, but it's not only just to, being provocative, but it's actually somehow because being provocative for the sake of being provocative, it means nothing. But we have to be alert constantly in nowadays world with with existing system of control. If we go to the very basic, yes, system of control and definitions of freedom and so on, we have to stay alert. We have to know what's happening somehow, and we have to be able to correspond and,
There is a very interesting point that I would like to touch on later when we speak about Liberation Day, to call back this exact moment. But I would move on for now. You'll see why later on. So when was the first time you heard of him?
Morten was introduced to us, to Laibach, by Jean Valnoir, who is another really interesting creator of design, very good one, and a bit crazy guy, also French. But and he, basically he kind of matched. He was the matchmaker between us and Morten, and then we went to the roller coaster.
So who of us is North and South Korea?
Yeah,
that's
and then Morten
out.
basically said, "What about if would Laibach do a concert in North Korea?" Of course, we said, of course we would do it. And then let's do it. And we said, okay, maybe this guy is a bit crazy. I mean, but whatever, it doesn't matter,
Yes, but
we like crazy people.
But before that, you collaborated on the music video Whistleblower, right?
That was before, that was the first step after
Yeah,
Valnoir introduced
why
us.
Why did we ask you to? We saw some of your work and we liked it, and then we asked him, maybe would you do something? And he did this actually brilliant, I think, one of the best videos that we have. Seriously, not because you're here, but really,
Thank you, leader.
Whistleblowers, which is a really great video. We all liked it. Everybody liked it. And it's not, we don't judge things by, liking them or not liking them. We are trying to, detach ourselves from personal tastes, so to say. But this time we were all very much into, this is a great video. So Morten maybe is not so crazy as he sounded in the emails.
So what was the idea behind how the idea for Whistleblowers came to be once they contacted you and you had, so this band that was so heavily influenced by for so many years, all of a sudden you have to do a music video for them. So what was that moment like? And then the creative process that came after it.
Well, luckily I was quite a bit older when they asked me to do this video. If they had asked me in 1987, I would kind of have died probably of performance anxiety and starstruckness and so on. I'm still, of course, a little bit starstruck every time I look at Ivan. Or maybe it's just a light, I don't know. But for me, I think I oriented myself. It's got a very anthemic text, The Whistleblower, and also that celebrates this, or at least highlights these collectivist values and kind of like so much Leibachian expressions, like kind of half serious, half ironic, you don't know, is about marching together. It could be like a partisan song from the Second World War in its content, but also it has something, or like a scout movement, singing to motivational. It's very motivational. In that sense. So that kind of got me the idea of something kind of children's movement like. So, and then I have been working quite a lot in Latvia as well, which is a part of the former Soviet Union. So they still have some really old Soviet architecture that has not disappeared yet. And we found this beautiful old school, which was called School 41. It had no name, of course, in best socialist style. And that was like ready-made for this kind of retro-futuristic environment of a training school for supersonic whistlers, which was kind of the concept. And then, so aesthetically, I kind of also went along with the young pioneer as if it was a recruitment school for a Laibach youth movement.
Okay, yeah. And so after that, you started collaborating, and then this idea of Laibach performing in Pyongyang came to be. But
sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think it's quite worth to mention here at this point that Whistleblower was somehow later on connected to Julian Assange. He saw the video and he really liked it. He wanted to, to be. They asked us, his circle. They asked us if they can use the song for their purposes and so on. And since
WikiLeaks,
yeah, WikiLeaks, and so, as he was the most famous and still is whistleblower, we said, of course, yes. And we even did a version which was a little bit different with. Julian Assange.
We imposed his image where the image of Milan, Laibach's vocalist, used to be in the video. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yes, and it's a statement in itself, of course. But so the next station for your mutual journey would be, of course, the Liberation Day concert in Pyongyang. But in order for us to understand how this was even possible, we have to understand how your connection with North Korea started in the first place. Because you traveled many times, not many times, but you traveled a few times before you went with Laibach, and you had a couple of projects going on over there, and you said a couple of projects, or maybe one project that I know of them coming to Norway.
Several projects, okay, coming to Norway. So how this whole, your little love story with North Korea started? My little love story? Well, I went first time back in 2008, and that was pretty, that was more or less by chance, and pure adventurism from our side, from my side.
Why?
Because I'm always been fascinated by weird places that are hard to get to, and I didn't know that it was possible to go to North Korea at all. But then an opportunity opened up, so I went, and it both met my expectations, because you go to a place like North Korea with very specific expectations and fears even. But also quite a lot of it didn't. And that was enough to kind of spur my curiosity. And because I'm privileged enough to live in an oil-rich nation that is relatively little corrupt and with a generous culture policy, I could secure the means to go back and build relations with the Committee for Cultural Relations with Foreign Countries. Yeah, but how does that even start? So just you have to go back a few steps. So in order for you to go to North Korea, what do you have to fulfill? What do you have to do in order to apply for a visa? I'm guessing they don't have an embassy in Norway. They used to have in the 90s, but then as they got poorer and so on, they've scaled very much down. So their Nordic and Baltic embassy is now in Stockholm, in Sweden. Oh, okay, so they do have But they do have representation,
So they have representation. So you just applied for a visa there and bought a ticket, and that's it?
No, of course not.
That's why I'm asking.
You have to sign this paper that you will leave your
kidneys. Donate your organs for the dear leader. No, it's that also is a matter of personal connections. Basically, it turned out that a friend of a friend in Norway, at that point, had a role in this small, quite strange friendship organization. And this friendship organization, I believe we even have one, probably a couple in this region as well. There is one in Slovenia, I know, and it's basically very male-dominated, a bit kind of socially awkward people who have this as their thing, instead of collecting stamps or, going to airports, train spotting, plane spotting, and so on. They have like North Korea as their project. So they have these international friendship organizations where they kind of are in touch with North Korea, and they get like a title that they are entitled to be the representative of the, say, Bosnian North Korean Friendship Association. And that means that they can go to North Korea they pay for their own money, like once every second or third year, and get a nice round table and feel important. The North Koreans, of course, use them as a kind of, I wouldn't say tool, but as a proof internally for their own population that, oh, the dear leader's words is so, you know, his wisdom is appreciated all over the world, and you see they are coming here and so on to show you their devotion. So I infiltrated a group like that and posed as being a member of that group and went to Pyongyang with this, like a friendship trip. And during this trip, because our hosts were something called the Committee for Cultural Relations, which is like a North Korean state organ for cultural exchange with other countries, as the name says. And I managed to bypass this quite authoritarian friendship association leader, who was kind of a mini dictator in himself, or a gatekeeper, and establish relations directly to the North Korean authorities, which you have to do, because there is no counterculture in a place like North Korea. And once that connection was established, we did some quite big collaborations. One where I organized the first Norwegian National Culture Festival in North Korea on the National Day of Norway. And I brought Norwegian musicians,
How many
actors.
of them?
I think we were 15, 16 people all in all. And a TV team from Norwegian State Television.
Okay, so they allowed TV team to film there.
Yeah.
But probably organized and in strict way what can you film or not.
Yes, there are certain rules and regulations, of course. But the thing that many people don't know about a society like North Korea is that it's so isolated. The general population is so cut off from the world, when it comes to information. So they are much more concerned about what you bring in than what you bring out. So what you bring out and however you want to present that, they don't really care after you left. It's more that you don't go off on your own.
Okay, yeah. Which happened with our dear Jani.
Exactly. you took my cue.
Yeah.
So through a series of ever bigger collaborations, which again established the personal trust between me and some of my partners on the Korean side, who I would not hesitate to describe as close friends. Because in the end, it all comes down to personal trust, especially in a place where so much is so regulated. You need to find those cracks.
Okay, in the system.
In the system, yeah. And all of that led up to the Liberation Day concert. Actually, tomorrow, on the day, 10 years ago. So today is 10 years minus 1 day since we were on stage in Pyongyang.
So tomorrow will be 10 days since the Liberation Day concert. So at which point he presented Liberation Day concert idea to you? And what was your initial reaction to it?
Well, he basically said straight away, would you do a show in North Korea? And we said, yes. You know, if you...
Yeah, we could recreate that scene now in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Of
course we would. I mean, I didn't, you know...
You never had a second thought or anything like that?
No. I mean, you know...
That's actually why I asked Laibach, because I knew they were the only band who would say, yes, of course.
Yeah.
We go to places where no one else dare to go. What is the Star Trek,
I thought you meant where angels fear to tread.
No, there's a Star Trek saying, we boldly go to places where no one else, whatever, it doesn't.
To galaxies far away.
Galaxies far away. Yes, of course. I mean, and thankfully, everybody on the Laibach side was also yeah, hey ho, let's go, which wasn't really the case recently when I wanted to get them into West Bank. They were a bit worried, and some say no. But yeah, anyway.
But why I'm asking is because if we take this concept of the language of art, the way you took it in order to make a statement. So, for example, having this, as Zizek also said it, by accepting and applying the obvious aesthetics and elements of authoritarian regimes, you are therefore creating this distance from it and critiquing it without critiquing it. Like critiquing totalitarian regimes per se doesn't have as much impact as taking the meaning away from them by emphasizing the parts of them which creates them totalitarian in a way. So creating this kind of a dialogue, which in certain area can seem and were controversial in many ways, but with systems like North Korea, the limits are tested. The borders of this kind of expression are tested. So have you ever had this doubt in, is this the ultimate distance and critique of the totalitarian regimes, or justifying it? So being in this ambivalent position of how this would be received, perceived, or maybe what would the final product be?
I have to say that, you know, first of all, we were much more the whole action going into North Korea was much more directed back to Europe and to the rest of the world, not so much to North Korea. We knew that, you know, we are not. It wouldn't make any sense for us to go to North Korea and tell them, hey, listen, you know, maybe whatever, your system is a little bit outdated or whatever. Yeah. No, that was not the case. But here, this was, you know, this was a different kind of action where North Korea played important role, but it was directed more towards the other side, you know. And that's where the real action was happening, so to say. We have just used North Korea in this respect to actually to make some confusion in the West. This was our
goal.
I think we created quite a lot of confusion in North Korea as well.
Also, but that's not.
That was a by effect.
Yeah, that was a by effect. But you know, the much more important was how because everybody was asking us back in Europe and the States and everywhere. How is it? You know, what? You know? Is it
the most evil regime in the world?
Yeah. Well, how did you? Why did you do it? I mean, why did you go and say? I mean, did you play for? Have you met Kim Jong-un? Did you play for? You know, why did you do it? The real alternative, aware artist would never go and play in places like North Korea, unlike I don't know, United States of America. Yes.
Yeah.
And so on. So we were telling just before this story about there was this leftist criticism coming from in Slovenia from you know this person that the real
a philosopher even, I think.
Yeah, sociology. It doesn't really matter. But the guy was saying
maybe I know who.
not Slavoj Žižek, no.
No, it's not Slavoj.
But he was basically saying, oh, the real alternative thinker, rock and roller, you know, aware musician would never go and play in the system like North Korea. This is Laibach is stepping over the limit and so on. You know, somebody like, I don't know, Ramones. He basically explicitly said Ramones, they would never do it.
And he was a big Ramones fan, I think.
He was a big Ramones fan, you know, and it turned out that later when we all kind of came back from North Korea, we were getting in touch by the, what's his name, Ramon?
Yeah, I got an email from the manager of Tommy Ramone.
Okay.
asking if it would be possible for him to play North Korea.
Oh.
And this was literally a few days after this latest controversy with this guy saying that, you know, true punk rockers like a rock spirit would never do this like Ramones. And so I just forwarded the email and served it on a plate to Jani.
And I passed him to this guy, and he was really disappointed. He said, "Oh, there's no God anymore." It's telling, you know, the naivety of understanding of what a true, I don't know, alternative rock and roll standpoint is. Whatever, it's a complete nonsense, obviously, and it looks like that the Ramones brothers have more spirit and more idea, you know. More adventurous spirit than their followers, so to say.
At least than their philosophers.
One other interesting
philosophers.
One of the very interesting things in the film was also when you asked the question yourself, why would bands such as Laibach perform in Pyongyang? You said maybe it's the easiest band for them to understand because of similarities. While you were placing those giant monuments with the iconography of Laibach in behind with the red on the black background, and what would those similarities be?
Well, I think that's one of my takeaways from Laibach's artistic and artistic methods from the very beginning, is that showing that totalitarian iconography and totalitarian aesthetics are basically the same, whether it's on the left or right. It doesn't really matter what kind of denomination, what kind of ideology. It's very often very similar aesthetics, and this. A leader, a strong, charismatic leader figure, a kind of a collectivist, almost anonymous politburo, this whole structuring of a movement. Laibach has always presented itself as a movement, I think, more than as individuals. And that in itself is a very, very recognizable feature for a society like the North Korean. And also the uniformity and the military, Wagnerian, pompous, you know, musical expression that Laibach has also been pursuing. All of this was, since we were talking about ambiguity, it would be something that would be, of course, I wouldn't say easy for North Koreans to digest, but at least something recognizable, some kind of. You could say some kind of camouflage even, or some kind of packaging that could get the Trojan horse, you know, into the castle.
And it's now the callback from the earliest parts of the conversation. So this extreme individualism, in order for most of the people to be their search for individualism, but following the invisible rules of now global society. So in search for individualism, they ended up in uniform states. So by trying to be different, they all look the same at the same time. But those invisible rules are actually the inner mechanisms of self-censorship against the so-called liberation of freedom of expression and speech they are on the surface looking for. And you said in the bus, while struggling with the censorship of the lyrics of Laibach songs, said that, I quote it, it's not a censorship, we are already censoring ourselves. We are our own North Korea in everyday life. But that was 10 years ago, tomorrow. So how would you describe the situation today?
Yeah, where in? You mean here or generally?
Or oh, I think it's everywhere.
You said it all. You know, I can
yeah.
just repeat what you said. I mean, I couldn't say it any better.
Yeah.
Any better, but yeah, in the past 10 years since, I mean, first of all, I was actually super surprised that even 10 years ago in North Korea, everybody had mobile phones. You know, this
in Pyongyang.
In Pyongyang, yes,
in the capital.
But these girls, you know, the really attractive. Girls, these nice people, everybody that we met, you know, they were all on mobile phones. And what are they doing? What are they searching? You know, obviously they have their own network because you can't, you know, get out of North Korea with. But still, they are still on the mobile phones. But this was 10 years ago, and now in the meantime, obviously, you know, the entire technology and. Social networks and all that thing has multiplied by, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 or I don't know. And that has pretty much shaped the actual situation as it is now, the perception of the world. And not only the perception of the world, the distribution of information, the distribution of music, the distribution of everything, the spanning you know, ability, concentration, the way we behave. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I'm just looking at myself. You know, the first thing I do in the morning is grab the mobile phone. And, you know, if I do it and I'm aware of it, you know, everybody else is, you know, it's pretty much more depending on it. And I'm not saying this as I'm not trying to moralize, but this is the fact, and that is radically changing the perspective of nowadays life.
But I think also you touched upon something very central, which is self-censorship, because I think that is a phenomenon that when you have been to a place like North Korea quite a lot and immersed yourself in that very, very visibly authoritarian system, you start after a while to recognize those mechanisms at home as well.
Okay.
Because one of the reasons why, there are many reasons, of course, to maintain a state like North Korea, or if you will, Yugoslavia too, I believe, you need to have a more or less benevolent dictator on top, and the state has to have a strong monopoly on violence and so forth. But what really maintains a strong, strict authoritarian system is actually people censoring themselves, doing most of the job for the state for them. Because most people know, as long as you have the clear rules, you kind of adapt to those rules, because you don't want to have the terrible consequences of stepping outside the framework which is there for you. And I think these, what you were touching on to, this more and more total prevalence of social media, like information technology and so on, which you could, and I think many did expect, would liberate mankind in a way, spiritually. And, you know, the first tech optimists of the 19th and so on were basically like more or less like anarchists who thought that this would liberate everybody and we would be like one big happy community, you know, one big hive mind. But instead, I think, if anything, that we're moving in the opposite direction. I see that the possibility to link up, of course, you will always find, like at any time, one more enthusiast of rare Italian truffle mushrooms somewhere on the net. But more often, you will be, the chances are that you will be attacked for using a word or posting a picture or at the wrong place or the wrong time, and being ostracized, cast out. And that is also a form of self-censorship that I think has seeped into the public discourse as well, which is why you don't really see that much real counterculture these days, because people are more or less conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the fact is that even the politics, even the rule of the law, or the dictatorship within the possible dictatorship within the political structure, it doesn't really control, so to say, masses anymore. You know, people are not, in fact, interested in this higher system and so on. You know, they nowadays, really, what has become the true weapon of control is the technology. This everyday technology that we use.
And this leads us to a point when you are presented with the system such as North Korean one, on anyone, which you spend a certain amount of time in it. You start understanding the rule set, you start understanding the consequences, and unwillingly or willingly, you start adjusting yourself and adapting yourself to that particular system. And there was this very interesting moment in the film when you were packing yourselves in a bus, and how you call those state men around were kind of
our minders. Our minders.
Minders, yes. They set up in a panic mode. You see something. You saw the commotion. Something was happening, and then you realized that Jani is missing, and all of a sudden, I could tell that you were the only one who understood completely how the rule set works, what are the possible consequences of it, and I could see it like on your face, like, oh, this can be a situation right now, and nobody could find him. So what happened, and where did you go?
Yeah.
And how did you ended up going like that? I was
actually thinking, I mean, okay, I understood Morten's concern, but, from the director's point of view, from the making of the film, I mean, this was ideal situation. Imagine that they would, send...
He made an offer as an actor.
Yeah, imagine that they would send the army, to catch me and throw me into jail, that he would get such a brilliant material suddenly.
For the film,
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I'm touched by your
revolutionary. But he was actually,
commitment.
Suddenly he turned into I don't know, how would you describe yourself at that point?
A demon?
No, not a demon. I think that you were just thinking very from a responsible point of view. Actually, you humanized yourself. You didn't, for a moment. You have start to be the seeker of the new words, the artist or whatever, the unartist, but you have become a responsible father of the, of the your flock that you had to take care of, and your hosts and us and so on. But anyway, I understood the situation. I really didn't want to make any problems, but I simply couldn't resist. It's like the old story of the frog and the Scorpio and so on. You can't. You have to.
It's in their nature.
Yeah, it's in our nature.
So you were in the hotel and you just.
Yeah, it was a sunny day, and I went out for a cigarette, and then people were, there on the other side of the street in the park, and everything looked very nice. And I said, okay, let's just go for a walk a little bit. I'll come back, And then, as it happens, in this geographic areas, the sun gets down very suddenly, and and I actually forgot that we should go for a dinner in the evening. And when I came back, they were pretty much pissed off, and everybody was,
How long were you gone?
Not for too long, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours or something. But just if I would come back normally in hotel, and if we wouldn't go anywhere, nobody would notice. But since everybody was there in the bus waiting for another.
And how was the situation for you and everybody else at that point?
Well, first and foremost, our minders, our Korean minders, were extremely stressed out because this also happened quite early in our stay. I think it was like the second evening or something.
No, later.
Yeah, but it was before the concerts anyway. Well before the concerts.
Actually today.
It was today.
The day before the concert. Yeah. 10 years ago, exactly.
Yeah, 10 years ago, you walked through the streets of Pyongyang.
Yeah.
Like Godzilla.
or maybe 2 days before.
Could be, but let's say for the dramaturgy that it's exactly 10 years since you did your escape attempt, escape from North Korea.
Escape to North Korea.
Yeah, to and then from.
You know, there was a moment that I would, kind of felt that I could easily become North Korean, walking there, you know.
You just integrated a little bit too quickly. That was the problem. Yeah. So we were, of course, the North Koreans were really, really worried and really stressed out because it's their responsibility. I mean, we are all their responsibility. And if anything either happens to us or we do something that we shouldn't, it's their responsibility. It's on them. So that was basically the biggest issue at the time. But what I was worried about was that since there was quite a strong resistance inside the North Korean apparatus, the North Korean cultural ministry and so on, to us coming at all. I knew this because I had been part of those negotiations. So it was also a struggle for the North Koreans to make this happen, not only for us. Mm-hmm. And there were people inside, colleagues of my North Korean partners who were basically just wanting to have these small excuses to try to sabotage or to get the concert cancelled. So that was my biggest worry. I wasn't worried about Ivan. To go for a stroll in Pyongyang it's a very extremely safe place. Maybe too safe, you could say. But so that was my main concern. But I was also, of course, I was really angry. So when he was located, because I think you were found, right?
No, I just came back.
Really? You came back to the hotel?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, because some of the minders went out to town, like into town to find you, and then in the meantime you came back. There was this kind of almost a slapstick element to it. But I was really angry, and I chose to be really angry as well, because I saw that this could also be an opportunity to demonstrate my loyalty as the bridge, the point man. So I did something I never would have imagined. I was publicly angry with my spiritual leader, artistic inspiration.
Mm-hmm. He killed his father. In
North Korea. I did like a real patricide. Temporarily, though. Temporarily. So then the North Koreans, when they saw how angry I was, they actually went in and defended him a little bit. They said, no, be gentle on him, and I'm sure it was misunderstanding and so on. So, I think we managed to turn it into something useful.
Yeah, and trivial as it is in a way. It's supposed to be.
In a way, yeah. But the context is everything, right?
Of course. Context is absolutely everything. So how long was the concert at the end? Because of the censorship, because of the lyrics, because of the...
Very short. We played it twice.
How many songs you played at the end?
I think 8 or 9.
Nine, I think. But one of them or two we played.
No, twice. Whistleblowers we did as the opener and a closer.
Right, because the opening one was.
But what was the what was the feeling? What was the feeling of having an audience that behave and looks exactly like you, but they're serious about it?
We are serious also.
Yes. But with context.
Yeah, I mean...
with them, without context.
Yeah. I mean, you would be surprised that the audience around the world, they also don't really... Lots of the audience, they don't really know how to behave on Laibach concert, what to do. Should they clap? Should they laugh? Should they be serious?
Should they march?
Should they salute?
Should
Should they
exactly.
salute? Should they maybe? Yeah. So it's not this audience there was not so completely, so much different. Of course, it was. I mean, they have less information and they saw something like Laibach for the first time, so they were, kind of curious. What is this? This is kind of strange and rhythm and so on. But you can see that in the film. It was some were, some faces. Some were very skeptical. There were some guys who fell asleep, which is also possible.
He was with his wife. So it was a typical culturally interested wife drags her husband along to a cultural event and he sleeps. So we also established they have that in North Korea too.
So the stereotypes are true for every culture.
The younger generation, some of them were very, curious and what is this and so on. Yeah, it was good, very nice.
So is Laibach now a band that people are listening in North Korea?
Maybe they have internalized it, and there will be some hybrids, like in a generation or two. There will be some hybrid forms popping up.
Yeah, but the TV, the North Korean TV was actually showing this concert.
Oh, really?
On
TV?
Yeah, on national TV. Probably not more than just once, because that's what they do. They keep on repeat.
Yeah.
But you can see on North Korean TV. I mean, I've seen in hotel at least. This probably they don't show it to the. You cannot.
Maybe hotel has a special signal.
Yeah.
No, I mean the state TV recorded all of the live recorded all of the concert, and I mean this is, I guess, if you can call it an advantage with such centrally controlled systems, that when they say yes and they do something, they do it properly.
Yeah,
they don't make a secret about it. So it was widely announced. And they even invited all the embassies, like all the diplomatic personnel, all the foreign NGOs that was at that time operating in North Korea. So they really, they beat the drum.
And what was the reception of the film afterwards at the festivals once the film premiered?
In North Korea, I mean.
The film premiered in North Korea?
No, but are you asking what was
No, around the world. I'm talking now about this side.
It had a very, very secret premiere in North Korea. Very exclusive.
It did?
Yeah. On a USB stick.
And you were there?
Yeah, I brought the USB stick.
So it wasn't sent via mail?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. But the reception has been really amazing, I would say. It's still being shown on some platforms and festivals from time to time. And Slovenia, for instance, I think they show it once a year or something. Quite regularly.
Yes.
So it's had a really long life.
What's the Rotten Tomato
score?
I don't know. Probably, I hope it's high.
Maybe someone can look up the Rotten Tomatoes score for Liberation Day. We'll find out. Yeah.
IMDb is 7.6 and Rotten Tomatoes 67%.
So it's 67%.
Then we believe IMDb.
Yeah, but
but
what's the audience score for Rotten Tomatoes? That's critique score, and now because of the modern times we're living in. 100%.
Oh, that's like a North Korean result.
No, North
I'm
Korea.
sure. I hope they were all volunteers.
In North Korea, would be 110.
Or 98.8, just to show that there is some variance.
Okay. So this leads us to your latest film again, which as we said earlier, is about matchmaking, especially in between North Korean women and South Korean men. And I would really like you to give us a context for it, because they stated several times explicitly in very different ways about why is that. But what is your personal experience in why is that, and are those reasons truly the reasons as they were stating it?
What
for example, that North Korean women are, hardworking.
I see. Yeah. The selling point.
The selling point of North Korean women, but the selling point of South Korean men too.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good example of one thing leading to the other, because this film also is taking place, it's filmed in Korea, but this time on the southern side of the DMZ in South Korea. There is this saying, like, which I heard it first time in the north, which is nam nam putnyo, which means like, it literally it means south man, north woman.
Yeah.
But the extended meaning is that the most beautiful women supposedly live in the north, and the most handsome men in the south. And this saying is from before the Korea was divided. It's like an old folk saying, you could say. Yeah. A proverb. Proverb is the word. So they say that a lot in the north, and also I heard it in the south when I was in South Korea on other projects, and it kind of stuck. And then I saw this article in The Guardian, which I told about before. So that for me was like a very simple formula, but also that started me thinking in different directions. And in the film, you see North women who have escaped North Korea and are also, I guess, confronting stereotypes about who North Korean refugee women are supposed to be in the imagination of course of the South Korean society where they are now living, but also, you know, perception about refugees, about victimhood, you know, about the weaker part and so forth. And the women in our film seemingly are expected to be victims, but they turn out to be really, really tough, like really extremely strong, extremely stubborn, even quite controlling, to the detriment of their South Korean husbands, and so forth. So the whole expectations are kind of turned on their heads. And for the Youjin, who is the matchmaker, the CEO of her own matchmaking company, Love Storia, she, it turns out, what we discovered was that she was basically selling a concept that was totally different from her own private life. So while she was like extolling the virtues of North Korean women, of them being, you know, relatively agreeable to, like loyal to their husbands, relatively submissive, more mild, more traditional than today's South Korean women, she is like, you know, she's tough as nails, and she was married to a more submissive, a bit younger, less energetic South Korean man.
Yeah, we could say that.
Yeah. I'm kind of putting it in a nice way. Nice way. Yeah. So she was basically selling something she didn't believe in herself.
It's on a certain point she explicitly says, "I don't care about romanticism at all."
Yeah, well, that's actually Hyoju, the client couple, because we are following two couples closely. One is Youjin, the matchmaker's own marriage, but also a couple that has been matched by her.
Oh, yes. When he went to Gangnam to work far away, and then he was seeing his son on the weekends.
They become a weekend couple, which is also quite common in South Korea.
Yeah, but there's this. How did you? What was? Let me rephrase. I'm trying to phrase this question because this is exactly one of you. You show him stating what is like for him being separated from his family, and then you immediately show her, and her vision of what's going on is completely different than his.
Exactly,
completely opposite.
He's full of longing, and you know he misses them and so on, and she's like, "Oh God, you know, there's less washing up and no snoring at night." And, you know.
completely different. And this directness that they have is a common theme that goes throughout the movie. So you're seeing like, for example, the guest house that Youjin had with her husband, and then you interview him about the guest house and what's going on and everything, and then his how he spends his time and so on and so forth. And then you interview her, but not really interviewing her, but filming her while she's gossiping him to her friend.
Yeah,
And
which she does or did a lot.
A lot, yeah. And this, how did you manage, or is it something that they do? How did you manage to create such an environment in which they felt so free to say such direct, quite often harsh things about the next of kin, knowing that they're being filmed and that this is probably going to end up in the film? And how did they react afterwards if they've seen the film?
I think there are, again, the key element, especially when making documentaries about sensitive subject, is to establish trust, basically. And this is the same with the North Korean project as well. It comes down to making people feel that you are not judgmental, that you're an observer, not a judge, and also that they can basically trust that you will be truthful in presenting what they show you.
Yeah.
So, but another crucial element in this case, since I don't really speak Korean, I speak enough to make people laugh in a pub. So I have a Korean-American co-director on this film, Sun Kim.
She was also in the Liberation Day, right?
That's right. She was part of the Liberation Day project as well as an interpreter and translator, which is absolutely crucial because she's completely bilingual, and bilingual to such a point that especially a language like Korean, which is really far from English, because language is also mentality. Language is born out of a mentality. And this is also why translation is such a challenging thing that needs to be done, I believe, by humans if you want to really get the nuances right. Yeah. So that's also a way to make people feel that what they say is actually represented in the way that it is. That they know that they have somebody competent who is the communication channel.
But don't you think that partly they were so relaxed? Because this, I was also questioning myself. How did you, manage to make them so relaxed in front of the camera and so on? But isn't that a little bit the part of the, not only South Korean society, but, general society at the moment, Big Brother shows where people basically are showing themselves easily, talking nonsense in front of TV. It's we have become a kind of televised society where, in a way where, and also all the face, TikToks, whatever.
Right, yeah.
But the question is whether this is a much bigger discussion, of course. But the question is if what people share in those channels that you describe, how honest is that? How authentic? We can discuss how authentic is that way of self-marketing or self-presentation and so on.
But the biggest the thing that I took from it is it served as a canvas that portrays the world that it is today, because it was such a somewhat awkward but surprisingly fresh thing to see such an honesty on camera, because we are the most televised society in the history of civilization, but this kind of honesty is extremely rare to see. They were completely no filter, just
exactly. And I think that's an important point, that this authenticity, I think, like real authenticity, again, real counterculture versus fake counterculture, real authentic authenticity versus and so forth. But another factor which also we could feel quite early on was that they had the need to, it was almost like it was a little bit therapeutic, especially for the women, to unload. And one of the other reasons why I think they felt secure enough to do that was that then we were just passing through. We were there at irregular intervals, but we would be there for some weeks and film, and then we would go away. So they would not have to meet us at the supermarket, or we were like a place where you could put your stories, and then we would go away. So it was a kind of an unburdening, also, I think, happening for them. And the clearest example of this was actually, we have a quite long monologue by Hyoju, the client, which lasts for, actually it was almost twice as long as it is in the film. But we use half of it, and it's all in one take. And it was the first time she sat down in front of a camera.
This was the first time she sat down in front of a camera?
Yes.
Wow.
And it was the first day we met.
We met just for the context. I know that you filmed about 5 years.
Yeah, that's
about
right.
5 years. So I really thought that particular moment came after, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years of filming.
Exactly. But it was the other way around. We sat down with her.
First time she sat.
It was the first shoot. Of course, we had met, in their hometown, and we had drink coffee in the park, and just established a relation. But it's literally, she sat down on a chair. We mic'd her up, and she looks at Sun Kim, who sits behind the camera and interprets and asks her questions. She says, I have a story, but it's quite hard. Should I share it? And
and then she said, I have no secrets, therefore I'll share it.
And then she tells this story that goes from moving, and then it becomes terrible, and then it becomes moving again, and then it becomes terrible, and both. And she does it with such an authenticity. And the flow of the story also, it's also as a storytelling, it's really compelling. So that's what was when I first understood that it has this function for them as well. I'm not sure that they are thinking this consciously, but there were these stories that were almost fully formed, within them. And I think when they are that fully formed, they have been there for a while, like the pearl in the oyster, so to speak.
Yeah, they have a need to express it.
Yeah. So in a way, you become also like a confidant in a way.
But that was a particularly difficult story to hear. There was two moments like that in the film. The second one was at the dinner table.
Yeah.
When they sat all together at the dinner table. That was kind of in a manner of like having a dinner, having a drink, sharing a story. So there was many emotions, but it was a collective experience of them, and it was a very strong point in the film when they were sharing the stories of being tortured in North Korea after trying to escape for so many times. Like I forgot her name. She tried to escape. She escaped in her 10th time.
Yeah.
10th, so 9 times she failed.
Sunsil, yeah.
Yeah, Sunse. She failed 9 times, but this one. Where you had the one take in the camera saying this amazingly long story, which was one of the most difficult and most harrowing stories I've ever heard in my life. And how this story impacted you?
I felt, of course, it didn't impact me directly because I didn't know specifically what she was saying, but I could, of course, feel from her energy that it was something very profound, that it was something that was really authentic, you could see. So, and when it was translated to me, I think I was spared the immediate effect. I could process it in another way than
was it translated immediately at the set or later on?
No, exactly, because not to break the flow.
Okay.
It's that's the technique that we were working in. That Sun we would agree in before what we would ask and so on, and then basically just let the camera run and do the shoot, and then I would be translated the main points, and then we could follow up with other questions and so on. So we did not want to ruin that that state, that zone, which the subject were in. So, and the fact is that what you mentioned also with this group dinner towards the end of the film, where North Korean, the friends of Youjin, the matchmaking lady, and her other North Korean defector friends, they sit around this table with a lot of food and, you know, booze and beer and, you know, and get tipsy, and they laugh because it's not like a laughter of playfulness, but it's a laughter of recognition. Because they are like telling these stories like, oh, you know, yeah, the border guards at Hyesan, have you also met them? It's like on the border to China.
I Googled it later on.
Yeah. And, you know, yeah, the border guards they are real bastards, aren't they? And said, yeah, you know, I remember I was. So they are also processing their different stories, but together with people they know have the same background. So, so this, again, I think what impact it has on me, I think many of these stories, I have heard similar stories before. So frankly, I wasn't really that shocked. I know that a lot of these people carry a lot of hard stories. But I was really moved by being part of an environment that allowed such sharing to happen, and being able to be in that without being an alien, disturbing element.
Yeah, without revealing too much, but there was this moment, this point, many of points like this in the film, but at the dinner table especially, when they were like casually cleaning the crabs. I think it was the crabs, and saying,
crabs.
"Oh, I remember we used to eat. It tastes same as home. We used to eat this before the famine started. So how long the famine lasted? Like since 1990 to 2002. It's like 12 years of famine. It's not 6 months or year and a half. It was 12 years of famine, and they were just casually throwing numbers like, oh yes, while eating the crab, saying like 3 million people died. Like 3 million people died during the famine that lasted 12 years, and this is like one of the...
It's a counterpoint. It's a juxtaposition.
It's a juxtaposition of a completely casual situation in which they share this story completely, and it really shows how much we actually do not know, and how much actually how much difference, how much empty space is between the cultures in order for us to identify among each other and feel the empathy toward each other. It just becomes these huge numbers which are very hard to comprehend. And they're throwing them like that on the table, and it means only for them. I think that truly they are the only one who can truly understand it, because they live through it.
I'm not even sure that I don't think anybody can understand a number like 3 million.
Yeah,
it's an abstraction, no matter how you go about it.
True.
But if you boil it down, or if you look at it through an individual experience, that might resonate with somebody who hasn't had the same experience, then you can get some feeling, I think, of the scale. But I think you're onto something when you describe the situation of having like a party, or having like this house party together and drinking and eating and so on. Probably that's exactly what enables them to do this. That they are not sitting like in a therapeutic circle, and focusing only on the talk. They are doing something else that kind of there is another focus.
Yeah.
And I think since the subject is so heavy, that also helps. That the atmosphere is casual, and it is the opposite of the subject.
Yeah. So you kind of unload the burden without having to deal with it at that moment. You just needs to go out. Out there in the world, and just can keep on with your day.
But again, also another example of what you talked about with authenticity is that our DOP, our cameraman, he's Latvian, and we only had one camera. We were like a skeleton crew at that shoot. So he basically, through this 4-hour long dinner, he doesn't speak a word of Latvian, and me and Son, the directors, of course, we wanted to stay out of the frame. We didn't want to, suddenly there's like this weird white guy in the background in the middle of this scene. So we just stayed away. And he just moved around. And without actually understanding a single word of Korean, he caught all these moments. And when we had the footage back and we looked through it, he basically had been every time in the right place at the right time. Almost supernatural. But also, I think it shows that he, with some kind of, tunnel vision, cameraman instinct, he felt that there was something important being shared.
Yeah.
So that was also kind of I choose to see it as that there was like a collective energy that we had managed to become a part of in a way.
Yeah, and I don't want to take any more of your time, but for the end, I would like to ask you about the book that Jani asked you about. I haven't had a chance to read it. The Traitor's Guide to North Korea. What is when you wrote this book? What this book is about, and how was perceived in North Korea? Have they seen the book, read the book?
Well, actually, this was in 2018, and I haven't been in North Korea since that time. So I wanted, and I needed a break from North Korea. There are other things in life and things that need to be done. It's quite exhausting. It eats you up. So I had an offer from a Norwegian publisher to write like a book, which I chose to do in a kind of a self-conscious play with the travel guide format. So I kind of, but since I have been accused of being a traitor from certain political environments back home in Norway for collaborating with North Korea, as also Laibach were, like the role of the traitor, I call it the Traitor's Guide to North Korea.
Okay.
But I also dedicate that book to an anonymous North Korean cultural bureaucrat who very well. He's also in Liberation Day, and he died in 2021. And he was my best friend. He was actually a very important part of how these projects could happen at all. So I kind of wrote the book as a long letter to him.
Okay.
Also, because in a way he is a bit like Winston Smith in 1984. He is like he's definitely a part of the system. He is the servant of a big, huge machine. He's a small wheel in this machine, but at the same time, he has this small flame of rebelliousness in him, and he tries in his own way by collaborating with me, by kind of putting himself on the line to bring Laibach to North Korea with my collaboration. He does these small acts of resistance, but within the machine.
Yeah, within the system.
So, rage within the machine, you could say even. And that, I think, brings us back also to ways of counterculture. That counterculture in such a society has to be within the machine, because there is no other subcultures. So this book was published in 2018, I think. It got very favorable reviews back in Norway, and it was published in Germany and Russia as well, which is two quite interesting places to publish a book like that. Especially in Russia, it's done really, really well, which also has a kind of a logic, I think. So, but it will never be published in North Korea while North Korea exists, and I wouldn't want it to either, because that would be problematic for him, I mean, for his family and so on.
Of course, yes, of course. So, Morten, thank you very much for this conversation. Jani, thank you very much for this conversation too. I think the movie was wonderful. It tells a story which is so much more than what it is on the surface. So I recommend anyone who has a chance to see it in the cinema. I'm guessing it's gonna go around festivals for quite some time now. So anyone who has a chance to see it. And is it going to be on any streaming platforms or anything like that?
Yes, it will. It has already been. We have a very good sales agent, Dogwolf, who is taking care of all the sales and so on.
Yeah.
So it's already been sold to various national platforms. But I don't think we have sold it to any Balkans networks yet. So if anybody's out there, we're open for business.
Yes.
Balkan is huge.
Yeah.
Balkan is huge.
It's a good market. It's a good market.
You don't know exactly where does it start and where does it finish.
We are all our own Balkans.
It depends who want to claim themselves to be and who does not.
Yeah.
But
Are you in or are you out?
Oh, I mean,
did you
I'm
realize
always
that everybody here in ex-Yugoslavia and so on is talking about themselves? We are the Western Balkan, but who is the Eastern one?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to be like the Eastern Balkans.
Yes, we tried this many times, so I don't know how accepted the term actually is outside of politics. I don't think anyone outside of politics is actually saying in real life, "Oh, I'm from Western Balkans."
Yeah.
This is the only thing you heard. You only hear this on TV during like news reports or something like that.
Zizek said, "We on Balkan,
Yeah,
we are the future." Obviously, because it's Balkan, it's a little bit future
On the balcony.
on the balcony.
Yes. Thank you. And once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.